Been a good minute since the last episode of Porterverse Workbench, so let's do another one, shall we? Here is my model of Toby the Tram Engine. Toby is one of my all-time favorite Thomas characters. There is no denying that. I just love this character. And he is one that I've always wanted to make a model of one day. A fairly recent deal from Russell Sheffield made this model possible. Before we get into that, let's dive into Toby's Porterverse backstory. It is quite a bit different from the official canon and most of the headcanons I've seen. So let's just jump in right at the beginning. Here we go. Right at the turn of the 20th century, the Sodor tramway was gearing up to open for service. Several tram engines were built for the railway under contract with Stratford Works. They were based on their C-53, later reclassified as J-70, tram engines. One of these was in fact Toby. Toby worked the line from Callan to Arsdale for many years, and survived well into Northwestern Railway ownership following grouping. By 1948, British Railways was formed, and the Northwestern Railway-owned tramway was amalgamated into the national network. British Railways saw to it that costs were minimized and profits were maximized. And so, they took the 3 engines running the tramway and figured they can just have all the traffic effort for the price of 1 engine. And so, they relocated all 3 of those tram engines and replaced them with the L1 known as Sigrid. Toby would be the tram engine to shoulder the ropes before he was relocated to Thomas's branch line, which was pretty convenient timing considering Thomas just got ticketed for running on the little tram section on his line without side plates. And so Toby was a perfect fit for this. Toby would spend the rest of the British Railways era working the tram section leading up to the quarry. He would eventually mentor the Farquhar quarry engines, notably 16 and Mavis, and occasionally butt heads with them from time to time, but they all get along well anyways. Following British Railways severing ties with Sodor's Railways, Toby was repainted into his original livery. Toby still works on a Farquhar branch line with Thomas, Henrietta, Daisy, Percy, Mavis 16, and all the other engines to this very day. To quote the Unlucky Tug, Toby is the easiest model ever. He is literally just Rapido's J70 model repainted into his colors. I knew from the beginning of my model making journey that Toby was to be made with Rapido's model one way or the other. As the Bachman model, it's good for TV series models, but it just doesn't really fit the bill for my more realistic style of modeling. At the very least, I was willing to settle on a 3D print body shell, but Shape Waste has since gone under, so that was off the table. Thankfully around this time I was contemplating how to make Toby, Rails Sheffield had the tram pack, which has the J70 tram, and 2 coaches on sale for an insanely good deal. And I started work on Toby the moment the pack arrived. Now, normally, I prime all my bodies with brush-on gray acrylic, or at least a white spray acrylic. However, for this model, given the very small wood paneling details, I determined that adding multiple layers of paints would end up caking up and losing all that detail. And so I just outright skipped priming the main woodwork of the body. And so I applied the chocolate brown color directly onto the body as it was, this being the chocolate bar color from Apple Barrel. And I applied this new color with a very small brush, making sure the coats were as thin as possible. After this, I did the trim work. This was done with toothpicks and very small amounts of Apple Barrel's warm buff. Around this time in the process, I also started work on Henrietta. She's just a repaint of her Bachman model, just nothing too special about it. But you'll see a lot of the pictures overlap for them. I then painted Toby's side plates in Apple Barrel Cobalt Hue. At one point, I made the buffers silver, as they were just regular shiny metal, I believe. I didn't really like how either of those looked, so I opted to paint the buffers black. After that, I did the number 7s. This was just Apple Barrel yellow color and very small toothpicks. I then made the dumbest mistake in terms of modeling on this model. You see, I tried adding a megaphone into this model. I plucked out the tram window and tried drilling a little hole into it for the megaphone. The megaphone didn't really fit the way I wanted to, so I tried making it a little larger to sit in further, and yeah, I think there's a reason why you shouldn't drill into this tiny thing. And then I realized that it was probably never going to work. One, because if it were to do that, I would have to black out the cap sides to hide the megaphone, and that would just look kind of ugly. And two, I remembered my own universe rule for my models. For at least the Porterverse models, any engines with two cabs, streamlined, or whatever other reason, wouldn't have a megaphone on them. When I realized this, I just sank in my chair. I had a lapse in judgment over one of my own rules that I set myself. Gotta love those ADHD drawbacks, eh? Thankfully, the tram model came with extra window frames they can just plug in with extra glass or whatever. I didn't have anything, so I just plugged in as it is, but looks fine anyways. Oh well. But after that whole kerfuffle, Toby was done. I am really happy with how it turned out. He fits right in with the other Farquhar engines. All that remains now is Mavis and 16. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of Porterverse Workbench. And as always, I shall see you all same time next week.